she said. "I have people who can replace you anytime." I nodded. Good. That night, I didn't argue, didn't warn her. I just removed one thing she depended on the most. 2 days later, her replacements stopped answering, and that's when she realized something bigger had already been taken away. My mother said a lot of things over the years that should have broken me, but the one that finally set me free was the one she meant as a threat. We were standing in her kitchen, the one I had renovated, by the way, down to the tile grout. I spent a Saturday afternoon on my knees scraping clean. She was on the phone with my aunt, half listening to me explain that I couldn't drive her to her nail appointment that Thursday because I had a work presentation I'd been preparing for 3 weeks. She held up one finger at me. Wait. Then she finished her call, set the phone on the counter, and looked at me the way she looked at a receipt she thought was wrong. "I have people who can replace you anytime," she said. I nodded. Good. I meant it. I meant it more than I'd meant anything in years. Let me explain who I am before I explain what I did, because context matters with stories like this. I'm 31. I work in IT infrastructure for a mid-sized logistics company. I make decent money, nothing flashy, but enough that I bought my own place at 28 and still managed to cover my mother's car insurance, her streaming subscriptions, her internet bill, and the occasional grocery run when she called to say she was stretched thin. I am the eldest of 3. My brother Darius is 26 and works part-time at a sporting goods store when he feels like showing up. My sister Priya is 23 and is, in my mother's words, still finding herself, which means she hasn't worked a full month consecutively since she graduated high school 5 years ago. I have been my mother's logistics coordinator, emotional support, handyman, and ATM since I was 19 years old and got my first real job. Not because she was struggling, she owns her home outright, inherited from my late grandfather. Not because she had no one else. She has a sister 20 minutes away and a social circle of church friends who genuinely love her. She leaned on me because I said yes. Every single time. For 12 years, I said yes. The nail appointment thing was small, genuinely trivial, but it landed on top of 12 years of accumulated weight, and I finally felt the floor give way beneath the relationship I had been propping up alone. The people who can replace you line wasn't new in concept. She had said versions of it before. Usually when I declined something or pushed back on anything, Darius would do this without complaining. "Your cousin Marcus never talks to his mother like that. I don't know why you make everything so difficult." What was new was how clean and direct she was about it this time. No softening, no pretense. She was telling me plainly, "You are interchangeable. You are a function, not a son." I drove home that night, and I sat in my car in the parking garage for probably 20 minutes. Not crying, not angry, just doing the math. Here is what I had set up for my mother over the past 4 years, because I am the kind of person who solves problems systematically. I had put her on my phone plan, a family plan I managed, for lines, and I paid the primary bill. I had set up her internet through a provider where I was the account holder, because she had a billing dispute years ago and asked me to take it over. I had connected all her streaming services, 4 of them, under my email and payment method. I had set up her Google account and was the recovery contact. Her laptop, when it had issues, came to me. Her smart TV, which I had bought her 2 Christmases ago, was registered under my account. Her doorbell camera, which I installed after a package was stolen, also mine. Her entire digital life ran through me. I hadn't set it up that way to control her. I want to be honest about that. I set it up that way because it was easier, and because every time there was a problem, I got the call, and it was simpler to just be the account holder than to walk her through resets and verification codes every 6 months. It was a convenience for both of us. Until it wasn't. I didn't do anything dramatic that night. I didn't send a message. I didn't call. I opened my laptop, made myself a cup of tea, and I started quietly untangling myself. I transferred the internet account, called the provider, requested an account holder change to her name, gave them her details, and asked them to send her the new login credentials. I removed her line from my phone plan. I had checked, she was month to month and could set up her own account without penalty. I logged out of all shared streaming services on her devices. I changed the recovery email on her Google account to Darius's number, which I thought was generous, honestly, and I unlinked the doorbell camera from my app and reset it to factory settings. She would have to set it up again herself or ask one of the people who could replace me. I did it all in about 90 minutes. I finished my tea. I went to bed. I didn't tell her. I didn't warn her. I didn't send a by the way text. I just removed the scaffolding I had built around her life and waited. It took less than 48 hours. The first call came from Darius, not her. Hey, Mom's saying her internet isn't working. I told him calmly that I had transferred the account to her name and she should have received an email with setup instructions. Silence. Then, why'd you do that? I said it made more sense for her to own her own account. He said, okay, in a tone that suggested it very much did not feel okay, and hung up. The second call came from my aunt, which told me my mother had already started making calls rather than handling anything herself. My aunt asked if everything was okay between us. I said yes, completely. I just thought it was time my mother had her own accounts. My aunt made a sound that wasn't quite agreement and wasn't quite concern, and then said she'd pass that along. My mother called on the second day, in the afternoon. Her voice had a specific register I recognized. It wasn't angry, not yet. It was the register she used when she was recalibrating, trying to figure out which approach would work. Your brother says you moved my internet account. Yes, I said. You're the account holder now. It makes more sense. I don't know how to deal with all that. The email has instructions. If you get stuck, Darius can help. A pause. Darius doesn't know about these things. You have people who can help, I said. Not mean, just even. I'm sure someone can figure it out. The silence that followed was long enough that I thought she might hang up. Instead, she said, quieter, what is this about? And that was the question, wasn't it? Not about internet accounts. Not about nail appointments or phone plans. It was about 12 years of yes, ending without ceremony, without a fight, without the dramatic confrontation she probably would have known how to handle. I didn't yell. I didn't send a long message itemizing every grievance. I just stopped being the infrastructure her life ran on, quietly and completely. Nothing is wrong, I said. I just thought you should have your own things in your name. It's healthier that way. Over the next week, I learned things. I learned that Darius, when asked to help set up the internet, came over once, couldn't figure it out, and told her to call the provider herself. I learned that my aunt helped her for an afternoon, but doesn't have the patience for tech stuff, and eventually gave up. I learned that my mother's church friend whose son works with computers came by and got the internet sorted, but then my mother called him 3 more times over small things until he started answering less quickly. The streaming services, she either figured out or went without. I don't know which, and I noticed I was genuinely comfortable not knowing. She texted me 2 weeks later. Not an apology, not exactly. More like an opening. Haven't heard from you. Hope you're okay. I replied, I'm good. Work has been busy. Hope you're well. We texted a few more times over the following weeks. Normal, surface-level stuff. It felt strange at first, like speaking a language I only half remembered. But it also felt, for the first time in a long time, like something I was choosing rather than something I owed. I've thought a lot about what actually happened. Not the practical stuff, the accounts and the phone plan and all of that. I mean what actually happened. The thing I took wasn't internet service. It was the assumption. The assumption that I would always be there, always absorb it, always show up no matter what she said or how she said it. That assumption had been the most expensive thing I owned, and I had been paying rent on it since I was 19 years old. I'm not estranged from her. I'm not out here telling people to cut off their families. That's not what this is. I've seen her twice since then. Once for Darius's birthday dinner. Once when she needed someone to look at a leak under her sink, which I did because I'm still a human being who doesn't want his mother's kitchen to flood. Both visits were shorter than they used to be. Both were quieter. She hasn't said anything about people who could replace me. The thing is, she was right. There were people. People who could drive her to appointments. People who could help with her internet. People who could sit with her when she needed company. She had built a life with real relationships in it. Relationships she had simply never needed to rely on because I was always first in line. Removing myself didn't destroy her. It just meant she had to remember that those other people existed. And I got to remember something too, that I had a Thursday presentation I was proud of, a project I had worked on for 3 weeks, and not a single person in my life asked how it went. I presented it. My manager said it was the clearest infrastructure proposal she'd seen all year. My team lead asked if I'd consider leading the next one. I said yes, and that yes felt like mine.